I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
Too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Not everyone has a godfather to get them a job. For the rest of us, there's networking. What is networking? Well, networking is when you create a group of friends or colleagues, which is your network, and use it to get a job or some other favor that you need. So, what is networking exactly, and how can it get you a job? Well, it's similar to the 6 degrees of freedom theory, or the 6 people theory. Now, the 6 people theory is the idea that everyone in the world is within 6 people of knowing you, which is to say they can be the friend of a 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 friend. Now, this is rather distant, but it is commonly believed that this could be true, that literally anyone in the world is only 6 people away from knowing you. Let's go through an example. So let's say your friend George has a cousin Michael, and he has a roommate Carl, who visited Mexico City to meet his pen pal Carlos. Carlos's girlfriend Carlita is friends with Danny Trejo. He's a famous actor, and you're only 6 people away from knowing him. That's how the 6 degrees of separation theory works. So how can this help you get a job? Let's say you hear that there's an opening at your dream job. Let's say it's Haschlinger Diapers. It's a German company. And since it's in Germany, no one in your group of friends works there, and no one in their group of friends works there. But maybe within those friends of a friend, someone works at this Haschlanger Diapers. Maybe they work there, or maybe they know someone who works there, and they can put in a recommendation at Daschlanger. Or maybe they have a father or a mother. It doesn't really matter. The point is, according to this theory and with networking, you can find someone who works at this company and who is close enough to you to give you a recommendation to Daschlinger. So when that CEO is looking at resumes, he recognizes your name, and that can give you that edge you need to really stand out and get that job. That is how networking works. But there's a little problem. Let's say you're looking for a job straight out of college. You know, maybe that friend of a friend of a friend doesn't really know you well enough to give you a recommendation. And all your friends, and really all of their friends, just got out of college too. Now, they can still put your name up when you're applying for a job and still help you if they've already gotten a job at the company you want to work at, which already is a big if. But the thing is, they've only been there a couple months tops, even if they have. So, why is that boss really going to pay attention to that recommendation when he doesn't even know that that employee is going to work out yet? The way we can solve this is networking with upperclassmen.
Here we are in the decadent marshes of southern Bolivia, observing the college student in its natural habitat. Oh no, we've been spotted. Stay still, act natural. Off to the left, I think I see the rare, white-jacketed, dark hair, the foot jiggler. Watch as it jiggles back and forth. The veracity of a cheetah.
Relax. Upperclassmen are not wild animals. They're not going to hurt you, and unless they're grad students, they're not going to dismiss you because you're a freshman or a sophomore. If you take the time to get to know them, to work with them, and to present yourself respectably, they're going to become friends with you, and they're going to be able to recommend you down the road. So, how can we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is meet some upperclassmen. Me personally, I did this through my professors. I wanted to do some research, so I talked to my professor, and he recommended talking to a few students who happen to be upperclassmen. Now, obviously, you can't really just go up to a professor and be like, introduce me to some upperclassmen. I'd really like to network with them. It's probably not going to work. But what you can do is look for clubs that match up with your career interests, like a business professionals club, the American Institute of Aerospace and Aeronautics, the chemical engineering clubs, things like that. Places where you can meet people who are in your field and align with your interests. Get to know the leaders of that club because they are the upperclassmen who are going places, places that you also want to go. So now we've met some upperclassmen. What can we do? First of all, show some interest in what they're doing. For me, that was easy. They're doing research. I wanted to do research, so I asked them about their research. And this is where I get to the first important tip. Never turn down an offer from an upperclassman. You need to take every chance you can to get to know them, meet them, learn about them, act interested, even if you aren't, which I hope you are. But if you're not, at least pretend, because it can serve you down the road. For me personally, I accepted 3 different offers for tours of this same lab from 3 different upperclassmen. I don't think they know it, but it allowed me to talk with each of them individually. And I did learn different things from each one, because they all had slightly different research in the same lab. But I'd already seen the lab. I just didn't tell them that because I didn't want to say no. I wanted to take what I saw as my best chance to meet these upperclassmen, get to know them, and so they would know me. And that's very important. The upperclassmen knowing who you are. And that brings us to tip number 2. Get involved. For me, that meant doing some research with these upperclassmen. For you, that might be the club you're in, doing some research, joining teams and projects. For example, there's things called senior design projects, which are very important to most college students' careers. They have to do it for class credit, and it's a very large, involved process, and they need lots of people to help them. Even as a freshman and sophomore, if you do a little extra research and you know your stuff well, you can still contribute on these teams, and it's very impressive to the seniors and juniors you're helping out. Not to mention, down the road, they won't forget the fact that you helped them get that A on that huge project, and that might just get you the nod and the recommendation to that job you want. So that brings me to tip number 3. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a lot better when discussing things with an upperclassman to just say you don't know and to ask them to explain than it is to pretend that you know what they're talking about. Because the fact of the matter is, they probably do know more than you. And they probably are going to talk about some topics that you haven't learned about yet and are a bit over your head. So, ask the questions.
Anyone? Anyone?
If it comes out in conversation later that you just pretended to know, or if you're on a senior design project and you agree to a task that you don't know how to do, the ramifications are going to be serious and it's going to give you a bad impression. However, if you just ask the question right then and there, the upperclassman isn't going to remember that you're an idiot who didn't know these things. He's going to realize you're a freshman, you haven't learned this yet, but that you're willing to learn, and he will be happy to take the time to tell you what it is you don't know, and in fact, it might even make you look better, because all of a sudden, now you know this piece of information that most freshmen don't. That is very important. Tip number 4, know your place. You are a freshman or maybe a sophomore, and they're probably a junior or senior, so that means their time is going to be worth a little bit more than yours. This doesn't mean that they can chain you up and have you work 24/7 until you got no skin left on your fingers. However, it does mean that you need to be respectful of their time. If they ask you to complete a task, get it done by the time they ask you to complete it, or even better, get it done early. That's the thing that sticks out in a senior's mind. And be sure that you're very gracious and very thankful that they're taking the time to teach you and work with you, because they don't have to.
All I'm asking you is for a little respect when you come a little bit, hey baby, just a little bit.
Be respectful and make sure that they enjoy working with you, because that'll help leave a strong impression that will last for a long time. And finally, tip number 5, get to know them on a personal level. Now, be very careful when doing this. Don't invite them to a strip club or something like that right off the bat. First, hey, you want to grab some lunch after we're done with this project today, or things like that. Have some meals, get to talking. Once you're friends with them, then you can invite them to the strip clubs or whatever it is you do in your free time.
I can't believe we're going to a strip club for lunch.
I don't even think about it that way. This is just a nice place to buy a burger that's a short, convenient 2.5-mile walk away from the hospital.
Just remember that since you don't know them yet, they might have different sensibilities than you, so maybe going to see that certain movie or going to that bar maybe isn't what you want to ask them to do. Just take it easy, take it slow, try to become friends, because especially if you become friends, then you know that they're going to be able to recommend you down the road. These are great tips, and I know they'll help because they've worked for me personally. However, in the end, it's up to you. You're the one who needs to get out there to know these upperclassmen and to make a good impression. But if you do these things, if you put upperclassmen in your network, I promise it will pay dividends in the future when you're trying to land that dream job.